Everything you believe right now is what you have accepted to be the truth, whether it's money or not. So I choose to believe that my income will expand to my lifestyle. Not that I'm not dumb. Not saying go buy a yacht, you'll find a way. I'm just, I carry that belief. That's what happens because I open or expand my container to accept or receive.
Hello and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, your host and companion on this incredible journey of career transformation. Get ready for inspiring stories, valuable insights, and a roadmap to shift your mindset towards a more fulfilling professional life. In each episode, we explore the remarkable journeys of individuals who made the leap from one career to another. As we navigate through these stories together, you'll find motivation, strategies, and the confidence to pursue your dreams. Whether you're feeling stuck, contemplating a change, or just seeking a dose of inspiration, this podcast is your weekly companion. Tune in every Thursday as we uncover the secrets to shifting your day job. I'm Brittany Cates, and I'm here to guide you on your path to a more fulfilling career. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and today my guest is Marnie Seifert Levy. She is a financial coach, and she is just so much fun to talk to. I love her perspective on finances, money, career change. She has such a infectious personality and passion for what she does. And one of the things that really stood out to me was her focus on mindset and how we all have a money story. And in her work, she is helping women uncover that money story and start making shifts towards a healthier, more abundant view of wealth, money, and finances. So I hope you get as much out of this conversation as I did. Without further ado, please welcome Marnie to the podcast. Hi, Marnie. Thank you so much for being willing to be a guest on my podcast. It's a pleasure to meet you. How are you today?
I'm great. It's amazing being here. Lots of excitement around the questions and the stuff that you do. So I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. So tell me a little bit about your background. You're a financial, you specialize in finance. What is that title?
You do money. Yes. So basically, my title in the world is, it's mom. It's a lot of different things. I am a certified financial planner, which means I have my CFP, meaning I have been in the finance industry for 30 years. That's not necessarily what I'm doing right now. So I am a certified financial planner and a registered retirement consultant. So 30 years experience in teaching people about financial literacy and helping them figure out what to do with their money. My business is around teaching financial literacy specifically to women. And where I come in with a different angle is I teach both the mechanics, the nuts and bolts, the what to do, as well as the mindset of money, or what I call your money story. So everybody's really being controlled by the set of beliefs that they have around money. So it's a kind of nuance. I don't take individual assets. I do coaching, financial audits and stuff like that. So it's a different take because I think a lot of people do one part of it, but not nobody. Most people don't do both.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because the goal of my podcast is not just helping people make a career change or giving advice around that, but focusing on the mindset piece around making a career change, because a lot of times that's what's getting in our way. And
Yep.
I know that I've heard from quite a few people that one of their biggest fears about making a career change is the financial piece, right? The stability they feel now, and then the uncertainty of, will I get a job that's just as good or better? Or even, I have all these benefits. How do I give that up to go and do something that feels better, but maybe logically doesn't make sense to the outside world?
Absolutely. At any time. So, I mean, there's two different things. One is bigger than the other. Obviously, jumping into entrepreneurship is giving up any stability on the other side of the leap. which I'm sure you deal with people like that as well. So when somebody's looking to make a career change, what I always say is same thing when they're looking to make any big decision when it comes financially. The other one that comes to mind is like a mat leave. Don't just sit there and wait for it to happen, and prepare. So think to yourself,
Yeah.
okay, you need a runway. How much money would I need to have if I could nest egged on the side? And how much is going to run me? This isn't if you're going like pure entrepreneurship, how much would I need to start out? Regardless of what you do, there is a leap and that you're going to have to take. But there are lots of things that you can do when you're talking about switching jobs mid-career. It's a matter of finding one that when you're coordinating with your spouse, if you have a spouse and you're coordinating benefits, maybe they have benefits, you've never been part of their benefits, and now they even have, turns out they had a better package than you, which happened to a client of mine. Besides putting money aside, it's also making sure that you have the same sort of lifestyle or what you want. So if time with your family is something that is really important to you, then you negotiate vacation, stuff like that. I'm very big proponent of women using their voice financially. You don't may not love what you're doing, but if you're there and you have an opportunity to wait for something great, you don't have to necessarily take the first thing that comes along because you have to get out from. So it's about preparation, and then at some point, it's a leap.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing all those examples. So, based on your experiences, we just talked a little bit about it, but what are some money worries that you've heard often when it comes to women wanting to make a career change? And what advice do you give to them?
Yeah, there's like a lot of them you have to filter through, and that's one of the things I do in coaching is you got to filter
Okay.
through the excuse and the
Mm.
reason. Some of them
Yeah.
are valid reasons, and some of them are excuses. I was having a conversation with someone today about you're not going to be able to go, say this person was starting their own business. You're not going to be able to go, okay, I'm going to spend $500, whether it's marketing or setting something up or finding a headhunter, whatever. I'm not going to spend $500 and then I'm going to make $500 back. I'm going to spend 700. You might have to take a big leap that feels scary and unstable. So often women, I'm a single mother, so that make a lot of the decisions that I made financially that were huge were really scary. You have to look at people's circumstances. Not everybody has a spouse to fall back on. Everybody has parents. Oftentimes parents do help people, but many people, myself included, do not have that nest egg. So I think you need to be realistic about how much fears are valid and serious for that person. And what I would say is, it reminds me of when I was getting a divorce, and in the end I got screwed over for a penalty of $9,000, and that was the camel that broke the back. I just was hysterical. And I remember my sister saying to me, "What's your freedom worth?" And I was like, "So
Yeah.
what is your freedom worth?" So a lot of questions that come up is obviously how am I, maybe things about lifestyle too. So that's something I'd like to bring up too. There may be a dip in lifestyle for a while as you progress. I've seen people that maybe it's not a lateral career. Maybe you're changing careers altogether, a totally different thing, and you got to start from here, and maybe a salary that's $10,000 to $15,000 less, but that's what makes your heart happy, and you're going to go back up there. So it may also include having a little bit of a lower lifestyle for a little bit while you ramp up.
Yeah. It makes me think of two things in my experience. The first is I love what your sister said about what's your freedom worth, because I feel like that's how I felt when I was a teacher, and I knew I had to get out. I had to get out. And people give you advice or they give you their opinion, and it was like, none of that matters to me. This is what I know that I need. And then the other thing it makes me think of is when I was looking for a new job, my goal was to make more money, which is not hard when you're teacher and looking for something else. But in my opinion, some people might disagree, but I ended up taking an internship where it wasn't paid for a period of time because I had the preparation for it, right? But I did that in the hopes of getting the job at the place. You know what I mean? So there was a time period where I had to be very conscious of my spending and how I was going to navigate that. And also knowing that there was no guarantee at the end of that internship that I was going to get a job, but having the faith that and trust in myself that I'm doing this for the right reason. and it feels like an aligned match. And it helped me gain more skills in the corporate world that I wasn't getting because I was doing all this freelance work. So
I have a feeling, and I always say to people, feeling that you get this feeling that there's got to be more. And that feeling starts to awaken in you. And sometimes it's not the time it awoken in me, if that's the word. When my kids were really young and I just couldn't manage going back to school, which I thought was necessary at the time. And you know what you know when you're ready to hear it, And so even for women that are listening that are like, oh, look at these women that are brave and started all over again. Maybe now is just not your time. I think that as women, especially, we need to give ourselves freaking grace. There's so much on our plates. And if now's not the time and you had a failed start, whatever that means, you just couldn't make the jump, but then give yourself grace. But yes, there is eventually a leap and there's a learning curve if you're going into, it's one thing if you're leaving what you're doing and you were going into entrepreneurship in the exact same field. But for you, you're going into a totally different job. You got to be like, you are betting on you. You are betting on you. Could I make happen? And I also give women permission to, I've seen social, financial situations where my husband's like this, and I don't know about my marriage, and his job is unstable. And when you can challenge people a little bit, but then when maybe it's just not your time yet. And that's fine too.
yeah. We all have to start somewhere, and maybe just the realization that you want more is just the first step in the right direction. It doesn't have to all download at once. It doesn't have to all happen at one time.
You can't unknow what you know. That's what I always say. So once that seed is planted, that there's more for you. Maybe it's not today, but it'll gnaw at you. And what is really interesting about sort of the mindset part of money is the mindset of anything is our minds are goal oriented. So the minute you think to yourself, you allow yourself to dream, it starts to go, I move that and I give up that, but I add that. Your mind, just like you say in the morning, I want Starbucks, your mind will start to be like, which ones are open? How do I should I leave 15 minutes early? So I'm such a huge proponent of desiring and setting goals because the minute you set it, you're on your way. I don't know when you'll arrive, but you're on your way.
Love that. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about why women take fewer financial risks than men and how they can overcome the thinking behind that?
Really? Are taught we have very poor financial literacy from societal expectations from the beginning. Whether it's innate or not, we play with Barbies, we're nurturers, we're told to nurture. We're told to, I think some of the statistics that I love to share when I get a chance to have a voice, that women were not allowed to open a bank account by themselves in Canada until 1964. And you weren't allowed to have credit card in your name or any credit in your name until 1974. Girl, that wasn't that long ago. If you consider that 38% of the millionaires in the US are women, there's a lot. We have a lot to be proud of, consider we were so behind. So what's holding women back from taking risks? We're told not to. We are literally raised and conditioned not to. And that's where the money story part of it comes in, which is how you learned about money. Were you even in the conversation? There are many people right now in 2024 that are not they do not have a seat at the table in their own marriage. And not because their husbands are controlling. Because don't worry your pretty little head about it. And this is not to in any way, shape, or form say anything about the way that this husband feels about his wife, but that's the way how he was supposed to taught that he was supposed to behave. And we were supposed to behave. I'll say to women, come to a seminar. I have a free one every month. Oh, my husband takes care of that. And I'm like, oh boy, like the statistics are that we will end up with over 80% of the money due to divorce, and we just still outlive the men. Husbands leave, we leave. I can attest to that. So it's really important that women do have a seat at the table, but we are told not to take risks. Actually, studies show that women are better buyers and holders. Actually, women do better financially because we have that kind of more steady ride it out where men jump around, but men are told to take risks and women just are not. And that also plays into your work with people shifting careers, as we're told to play it safe.
Yeah.
Very clear on the answer to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say are some tools that women can start using or things they can start doing to be more willing to, or open to taking some risks with finances?
First of all, I would say consider financial coaching, consider anything that increases your financial literacy, consider anything that challenges your money story. And I'm just going to be quick with that. The money story is your set of values and beliefs and therefore behaviors about how you learned about money. So, for instance, I've met people that are 25 and they have a very serious scarcity money story because that was inherited from their parents. Money's hard, money's limited, money's hard to come by. So in order to change that, you have to make your own decisions about money. And that's women, that's men. At the conditioning. So what women can do first and foremost is learn about money. And what I do not teach them, having a budgeting event at the end of May. I'll give you the information so you can put it in the bio, but it's budgeting without limits. Like I do not believe in making your life smaller and tighter. That's a lot. That's more and more of a scarcity. I choose to believe everything you believe right now is what you have accepted to be the truth, whether it's money or not. So I choose to believe that my income will expand to my lifestyle. Not that I'm not dumb. Not saying go buy a yacht, you'll find a way. I carry that belief. That's what happens because I open or expand my container to accept or receive. So I don't believe that. I believe budgeting. And if you actually look up the term budgeting, it means to know where things are. It doesn't mean to spend less. It doesn't mean to squish yourself to a point where it's like being on a diet. Give me a diet and I want all the cookies. So it's a matter of knowing where your money is going. And people have a scarcity mindset. People also have an avoidant money story. They do not know where their money's going. They do not open their statement, do not file their tax return. And so people are afraid to look at their finances. If you said, I had to say 2 places to start, take inventory without judgment and do what you can to seek places. There's chat GTV prompts. I'm happy to provide your audience with some prompts to enter into chat GTP, the chat thing. You can, and increase your financial literacy. People don't even know how much they're making in terms of a return. I meet with people. One of the things I do is a financial audit where I take your whole financial picture and kind of say, no, you can tap shop with this. No, this would be better put over here. And people don't, oh, I'm paying a low interest rate on this credit card. That was 15 years ago when you were in university. Oh, I'm getting this. And so they're not really aware. And it's fear. I think that the one message that I'd like to set out to is you're not dumb and you're not procrastinating and you're not lazy, but you're being controlled by feelings that are dictating your money. So I'd say increase your financial literacy and take inventory. Start with just looking at your finances. It is what it is.
Yeah, I like that because this idea of looking at them without judgment, that's the hardest part is like removing the judgment piece, right? So when it comes to getting curious, okay, what's going on with my money? Where's it going, right?
That's
how can you remove the judgment and the feelings and look at it as it's just a number. It's just a fact, right? Like facts don't have feelings or whatever. Like how can you reframe it so that you're not so scared to look at it every time?
I'm coming out with a program and then it's not easy. I'm go step by step because your money store starts with the origination and then the layering and doing all these things. If you have young kids, they'll be like, that guy over there is short, fat, he's tall, he's just fat. Your choice about whether or not those facts hurt your feeling, that's a choice. And so to me, in my world, that is not a 4-letter word. And so it's just fact. And so one of the things with finances too, and people play all kinds of games. I'll just give you a quick one, which is they'll have a line of credit that's racked up to $300,000 and their mortgage is almost at 20,000. And I say, we could do better by consolidating these. I would suggest that you reach your, well, no, my mortgage is almost paid off.
Hmm.
No, it's not. Like, that's secured against your house. But in their mind, in this game that they're playing, that again is not purposeful, but it calms them down. So how do you do it without judgment? You just sit. One of the meditations that I do by Wayne Dyer, I'm a very spiritual person, is you are always open and free to observe your life. So don't jump in. And that has helped me so much with conflict resolution. I'm a passionate person. I'm not like, I'm a doer. And so do the same thing with money. You're going to put the stuff in front of you and you're going to feel feelings rise and you're going to let them fall. The thing is that it is what it is, whether you like it or not. And so here's the thing. Just let it be. You're not going to change it by not. In fact, I know places where people have not paid arrears and taxes. And so there are places by being avoided. It's egregious. You have interest that's compounding and compounding. And so it actually can hurt you. Just allow yourself grace. The same grace you would say to a woman that said, when you look in the mirror, whether it's your body, whether it's aging, whether it's all those kind of things, just give yourself grace. And it takes, all these things are programming. You are programmed in 5 minutes. If we were a 6-month-old baby, this would be a lot easier, but we're not. And you have all of your parents and friends' voices. And you had mentioned earlier, which I think it's really good to mention because of the type of work that you do, that you're going to get a lot of opinions when you decide to make a change because people don't like change.
Yeah, absolutely. And people give you opinions and it's based on their experience and it has nothing to really do with you. And yet we take it and personally or at face value. Yeah.
Bob Proctor said, like, don't take advice from anyone that's broker than you, which is hilarious. Like, some people will give you advice and it's based on 2 things. A, their conditioning. That's 100% sure. But it's also, be careful. That's why maybe it's overused right now, but really enlighten yourself on the concept of masterminding, because who are you aligning yourself with? Are you aligning yourself with people that are giving you an opinion because you staying low means they don't have to go high? Right? So if you and I are best friends or you're my partner and you start to elevate, you're going to leave me behind. I'm going to pull like a mofo to bring you back down to my level. Then I don't stand back. So when you're making decisions, like you are making a decision to change careers and stuff like that, you might have to leave some people behind.
Yeah.
Or you might have to say respectfully, my decision and I'm going. And if that's not something that you can accept, then you can make your own decisions. But you can't get there from here, right? There's a lot of steps along the way and you might not take the same people with you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that my career coach taught me was, who are you listening to? And so with your finances, like you mentioned, who are you listening to? And in a career change, like there are people that want to protect you and keep you safe. And you may have a stable career, a stable income, yada, yada. And in their mind, that is safe. That's what's best for you. But are those people you're listening to?
If it's a parent who, maybe I use the example as an immigrant, like came here, they're like, we were told to wash dishes, whatever we were allowed to do to make money, you do. The concept of, I just wrote in my blog, I have a newsletter. It's only younger generations that are starting to demand that they're happy at work. And this also gets it on that, somebody would say to you, you're a teacher with a pension and who are you to want more? That's all you should ever ask for. But people are demanding to be happy now. They're saying, especially millennials, are saying like, I'm going to spend the next X amount of years doing what?
Yeah, it's interesting because times have evolved and changed. Like we are now in a position in society where we can demand that versus many years ago. I read a statistic recently about marriage and how like people want to get married and they want happy marriages now, right? Whereas back in the day, it was more for convenience and security and all these things. And so like things have just evolved and changed, and we're allowed to embrace that.
Women, that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about with teaching financial literacy is in my career, when I met women that are now in their 80s and 90s and were there, these types of women, they didn't work outside the house. They did not pay into CPP. They did not, there's a lot of financial abuse in marriages, a lot of control being used by one spouse to the other. And these women literally had no financial means to leave. And that's one of the things too, is people married for maybe to get out of their parents' house. How many people of an older generation said that to you? Things have changed. You can leave your house yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's huge evolution. And it is, I think women, one of the things that I'm writing about this week for my newsletter is that 4 things that hold women back financially. And one of them is that we are out of the workforce for a lot longer than men. We are caregivers for children if we choose to have children. We are caregivers for parents. We are caregivers for our spouse. So we take on, a lot of women don't even elevate in their career because my husband still he's really busy and I've got to take care of the house and the kids are going to come home and no one's going to do homework. So we're taken out of the equation. And that's one of the reasons that we don't build wealth as fast or as much as men. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of my questions for you. I have talked to women who are like, I left my career for a period of time to take care of my children, to raise my children. Can you talk to like how that affects their money long term? And is there anything that can be done about that? Or is there any mindset work that can be done about that?
I'm a mom. I have 2 kids and a single mom. But if you're going to choose to have children, which by the way, please do not have children if you don't want them. Please don't, choice, don't feel pressure. But yeah, I'm a mom and I've always wanted to be a mom. And, you don't get time back with them. You can have a lot, but you cannot have everything. And so if you choose to have children and you choose to pour into them, I was recently in an event with speed mentoring with a woman who got me and was asking me money questions and she's crying because she wants to get back to her business because she really feels the pull of, I have to contribute. I'm knowing if I'm not contributing and I don't want to be in an allowance. And then I saw her again 3 months later and she was like, I wish I would have just chilled. So if you're going to choose to be a parent, it's a really important job. So if you choose to pour into your children, which I did, I chose to take a step back in my career. Even when I did go back to work and I took 2.5 years off, I'm never going to regret that time because I chose to be a mother. And so I think the problem comes when you try to do everything and you try to say, no, I want to be as successful as I was, or maybe a counterpart or my spouse, and I want to be the best mother and I'm going to pick them up from dance class. You're going to have a nervous breakdown. Like, you're only one human being. And what I would then, going back to the grace, is that you might not be able to catch up. And maybe you will, and you put the pedal to the metal at a later date. And that's how I did it. So I spent the time where I had to a little closer to home, able to pick up if I needed to, and they weren't, when they could be on their own. I was like, peace out, mommy's going to fly. Let's build some intergenerational wealth here. And so I did it without guilt. You have to allow yourself to do it without guilt, whatever decisions you make. But you will either have to forego some, work later. There's only so many levers you can pull, right? Or put the pedal to the metal. And I say that with a certain amount of weight because I don't believe in the hustle and grind culture. I do not believe. I don't believe you left being a teacher and marking every night and screaming. To be more stressed out, right? And so exactly, I do believe we are meant to enjoy our life, but I thought there's also things that you can be smart with your money, right? You can look for passive income streams. You can look for multiple income streams. You can look at monetizing your passion, which you and I are both doing. You can look at investing better. So getting financial literacy in order to understand what investment risk is. Investment risk isn't getting a stock tip from your hairdresser. It's getting that's not smart. You wouldn't get heart surgery from the guy at Mr. Lube. Don't take stock advice from your hairdresser. So using professionals to get proper advice to understand what risk is, because risk is not gambling when it comes to investing. There is smart risk. And so a lot of people don't know, or they close their ears. And so you can also pull the lever of increasing your risk tolerance with your investments. I've seen people create crazy amounts of wealth off of minimum wage because they spent their money well. They spent their money well. They didn't necessarily, maybe they did more kind of contracting than I'm willing to do or that you would be willing to do, but they also invested their money. Speaking of one particular story about an immigrant that worked as a dishwasher, but you know what he did? He bought 4 houses in Kingston, Ontario, and he rented them out room by room to, and he amassed a fortune. Was it easy work? No, kids, but he was smart. He made sure that there was always a parent that guaranteed the rent. Like he's not stupid to default. And he used his brains. And just because someone does one thing for a living because they have to survive, it doesn't mean they don't have business sense or they're not smart or you can't find another way around. What I would say to you is there's never a time in history where you can have more control over making money, not having to go and ask someone to hire you, or you can make your own decisions and be in the driver's seat, even if it's supplemental income.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is amazing to see people online doing these kinds of things. And it opens up your mind to possibilities that you probably didn't grow up knowing about. And that's another thing that came about when I was trying to figure out what my next move was. Like, I learned about all these opportunities that people are making way more money than me as a teacher online, working less, and utilizing a lot of skills that I already had. And I was like, I could do that. Why am I not doing that? And it just opened up my eyes to more possibility out there. And I think a lot of people do get stuck in tunnel vision because they've been doing this for so long. They don't realize like there's more opportunities.
It's not easy. There's in the coaching space or online courses. What are you going to do there? What are you going to do to separate yourself from other people? Well, the most important thing I can ever teach anybody about money, and you would think it's going to be a stock tip, but it's not going to be. Understand that money is unlimited. There's no last Porsche. There's no last iPhone, and there will be a lineup for the next iPhone, regardless of recession, regardless of the inclusion of the new capital gains tax in Canada, regardless of whatever you think, there is no limit to money. So when you take on that mindset, you immediately eliminate one factor, which is really sort of deafening to people, which is competition. There's no competition.
Yes.
You're in your lane. And I always say to people, mute people on social media that make you feel like shit. Like, oh, this is what I have. What you don't even maybe want what they have. And they may be lying and who cares? It's not your grass. They might use pesticides. We don't know. I don't know how many billion people are on the planet. You will find your people. And it might not happen in a day. For me, the one thing that I say is I always have shiny objects. I can start a YouTube channel. You should do that. And I need, so for me, one of the greatest things that I've ever done is spend a crap ton of money on coaching because I need someone to go, stop it.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing for 6 months. And don't look left or right. And that's where I've been successful, very successful, quickly, not going, take that course. And then I should take that course. And I should take that course because girl, I've done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of noise out there and a lot of distractions. And it comes back to who are you listening to and sticking with it, right? So, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Sticking with it is hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why accountability is such a big piece to almost all life changes, right?
And the coaching industry is so vast now. Online coaches, business coaches, dating coaches, whatever, weight loss coaches, people, you just need to sort of, or, you could get into the space yourself and you just need to be an expert at something or a couple steps in front of someone else who wants to do what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you address, so being a former teacher, heard a lot of concerns about teachers leaving the profession and leaving behind their pension. Can you speak to that mindset to the people that are like, I've invested so many years of my life and I have this pension, and how do I walk away from that?
You get whatever you paid into to at that point. So teachers' pensions are different because they're usually good in terms of indexing and all kinds of other things. Yeah, you're going to walk away from like your full pension. But again, what freedom work? But I guess the other thing is, so you're not leaving it. You were fired for cause and you're leaving your money behind. Say you've accumulated, you have two choices. You can either take in most places, you can take a sort of a lump sum accumulated value that goes into like a locked in type plan until a certain age. It depends on your sort of like country, state, whatever, province. Or you can say, okay, they'll freeze your pension in time, and say at retirement, you would have gotten $4,000 a month. You're leaving early, you're going to get guaranteed $2,100 a month and making up money. So you're not leaving it behind. And you're also not retiring as in wrapping it all up. You're making a change and you're forgetting the other side, which is you're going to be making more money on the other side. When you're going into another job, you can look at what kind of benefits and pensions there are. People switch jobs all the time if you're talking about like a corporate type thing. Where it does become a little bit more of a decision is entrepreneurship. You start to start looking into private insurances, maybe your work covered certain benefits and stuff like that. So you do need to sit down with someone professionally and say, I recently did this with someone who wanted to closing down their business. I get this amount for massage and I really use it. And I get this amount for physio and I really use it. My dental, only cleanings. Like, what does it really amount out to? What is the big thing that we call benefit? What does it actually translate out to you? And like I said, in terms of pension, you are trading. First of all, if you're going job to job, you can look for a job that also has a good pension. No one's going to pay into a job that's necessarily like a startup where you're going to make sound decisions. But if you're jumping into entrepreneurship, then yes, you are giving up. That's the whole point of making some of these changes is you're giving up some of the shackle. Securities do come with the shackles though, in order to fly, right?
Yeah.
So what if you made so much money that your pension didn't matter? What if you loved what you're doing so much you didn't want to retire? Or didn't want to retire fully? What if you loved what you do? People are like, what? When I ask people, first thing I ask people is, what do you want? To go, huh? Well, I know what I should do. I don't know what they want. Who knew? You're not making this leap to be in a more difficult situation.
Yeah.
So pay for it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that reminder because I do think people get wrapped up in the fixed mindset. People get wrapped up in the fixed mindset and they aren't open to abundance or the possibility of abundance by making a change, right? They're stuck in what they're used to. And so they worry maybe it can't get any better, but I don't know. That's one of my like big pet peeves is I've talked to people where I'm like, every time we talk about your job, you're miserable. What if you did something else? And they're like, oh no, like there's no guarantee that the grass is greener on the other side. And I'm like,
What if?
but what if, can it get any worse than this? Because I don't know.
Same thing as the people that are in divorce counseling. You meet somebody and then I speak to people a lot. Coaches refer people to me and no, she did it again. And you know what? You turn around one day and regret it. I don't know, probably, but you'll know when you know. But if you're miserable, it will get to a point as when you deal with people that it'll come to head where it's like, particular time my hairnet is better. Like I'll take a job with a hairnet. Like I got to, and what ends up happening more often than not is people end up on some sort of stress leave because you can only do so much. I generally let people with guidance come around to their own lead. One of the things you can do is just look about your own life. I have an abundance of hair flip. I have an abundance of mud. I have an abundance of hair. Look for the abundance in your own life. There's evidence. When you go for a walk in nature, especially right now in spring, be in awe. Get off the phone. Be in awe of the fact that there's so much. You go up north and you're like, where did all this come from? Like a seed blowing. So just really be aware of all that's out there. And I refuse to contract. So if there's a conversation where it starts to go about politics and
Yeah.
either physically or mentally, I'm out of there.
Yeah.
There is no value. And so just like there's no value in all these conversations about what if it's worse? What if no value in that? So what's better? So imagine one of the exercises I use with people is tell me about it, write about it, imagine what it would be like. And one of my favorite words in the entire world is expansion. Say it. Even expansion makes you feel bigger. So
Yeah.
what is it? And then they start to wait, like maybe I could have an extra 2 weeks off. Maybe I could
Yeah.
travel. Maybe I could don't stop, let it go.
Yeah.
What if? And then all of a sudden you're like, I want it. It's just a matter of like even just using the word expansion, opening up rather than contracting, but it's fear. And sometimes it's easy from the other side
Yeah.
to think, oh,
Yeah.
people want
Yeah. For sure. And like you mentioned, if it's not your time, you're not ready, then that's okay. You're allowed.
I will say, bug you a little bit. You only got one life. You know what I mean? But and you're not gonna. I do not believe anymore, especially like with all the things that you could do. I do not choose to believe that there's not a time to start over. I do not choose to believe the gig economy is so massive where people are taking freelance work, side hustle. An example of gig economy is even Uber Eats or whatever, something. And so when was there a time in history where you didn't even have to apply for a job? You just register your vehicle and like make you money day one. There's lots of stuff. There's never been a time that you're not going to be put out to pasture. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, no, it's too late for me. No, it's not. That's another, it's not, it's an excuse. It's not a reason to be told that stuff at first. And then, so it's kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you find is, I'll ask you, your podcast will ask, what do you find is the biggest challenge that people face when they coming to you when changing careers? Is it people's expectations of them? Fear? Is it money?
It's fear. It's fear of the unknown. Yeah. And getting caught up in, is this really possible for me to do? Because I've never done it before. Yeah. Like I've been in this career for so long. I'm not confident that it's actually possible.
Yeah, there's some, and the other thing that I know we're running out of time, but the other thing that I like to, I think there's so much, oh, I'm a 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure, 11-figure. Maybe no, you're not, and maybe yes, you are. What do you want? Maybe you don't want that. I don't want to work if it requires me working 16 hours a day. I don't want 8 figures even. I want to live. So shut off the noise. And what do you want? You know what I mean? That's what I say to people. People are spurred on. I need Gucci shoes. No, like I like to be barefoot. You know what I mean? And that's not wealthy. I have wealth.
Yeah.
I like to be barefoot.
Yeah. And as you're talking, another thought that's crossed my mind is you've mentioned it, but we all choose our lifestyle, right? Like how we want to live. And so the way one person spends their money doesn't have to be the same way that you spend your money. And it's all about priorities. So back to what is it that you really want? What do you want your life to look like? How do you want to feel every day? And really just getting back to that. And like you said, there are a lot of people who are like, what do I want? No one's ever asked me that, or I've never thought about that. Now's your time. Think big. And if you can think it, then you can make it happen.
It doesn't have to be chew it off at all one time. How am I going to get from this and to a God? Exactly. It could be just one step at a time in just choosing this time next year. Like I'm working with a woman who hates the job. Can we agree that this time next year you won't be there? And maybe she'll change the date on the way there. But for that 6 months, in her mind, she's got to start making plans, making arrangements. If you never set a date, even if you move it, if you don't set a date, I think people that I know that do work in sort of career change and all that stuff, they say one of the biggest things, set a date. Even if you have to move it, at least you're like, you can hit a brick wall, but at least you have an idea of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last gal I talked to on podcast, she said that our brains, like once we set the date, or like our brains work in goals. So once you set the date, then your brain starts trying to figure out how are we going to get there? Yeah. So,
And it's okay if you get scared and you change the date, but you won't change it a million times.
yeah.
Eventually it'll win. Eventually the want will win once you, for me, the minute I started to think that there was more and I really wanted more and you can't unknow what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any other piece of advice that you wanted to share with the audience before we wrap up?
The idea that, like, I guess abundance is for everybody, that there are no people that were born into it. I was born into a family with very difficult financial situation, and mine is lovely. That there is no, I used to think that money was for, judgments around money. That money was for certain people, that people had to have a certain education. You had to be born into a certain way. Like, you can choose to change your life in whatever direction you want, in any way you want, starting today. So that would be advice. You're not stuck. You're not cursed. Anything is possible. Your past is a wake behind you, and your future is exactly what you make of it.
Awesome. Thank you. Marnie, can you tell the audience how they can find you, how they can work with you, all of that good stuff?
Yes, absolutely. Mostly, right now I'm building a program, but mostly it would be at social media. So I will give you my social media tag, which Marnie_Levy1 on Instagram. I'm about to drop a series on how different income is taxed. And I speak of both the spirit and the mechanics of money. So you get both. And there's also a link to join my newsletter where I'm not going to brag, I'm a good writer. And I give calculators and tips and tricks and stuff like that. And I usually host a free event every month. And so all that stuff will be through my social media, and I'll send it to you afterwards so you can put it in the link below.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure. And thank you for all the amazing advice. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Again, I would like to thank Marnie for joining me on the podcast today. I think this discussion and her wisdom really give women permission to start taking charge of their financial literacy and choosing the type of lifestyle they want to lead, and reminding us that it doesn't have to look like everybody else's life. We all have different values, different priorities throughout different stages of our lives. And I feel like Marnie really empowers women to make the best choices for themselves without feeling limitations. So I hope you learned as much as I did from this conversation with Marnie. And if you would like to work with her or learn more about her services, all of the links can be found in the show notes. Before I wrap up, if you are a woman who has been feeling the career change bug, you need some guidance on what your next steps are, whether it's clarity around what's your next career move, or if it's the mindset piece of I'm struggling to believe in myself, so I need someone to support and lift me up. I offer my career coaching services, and I would love to offer you a free discovery call so that we can chat and discuss what your next steps are and how I can help support you along the way. I have made a career change myself, and I am much better off for it. I'm happier. I have a better work-life balance. My finances are in order, and I just want that for you too. I truly believe that you deserve to love what you do and be uplifted and empowered by your work rather than downtrodden and frustrated every day. So the link to schedule a 15-minute call with me is in the show notes. I would love to connect with you and help you start making some career moves. Thank you again for joining me on the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and together, let's shift your day job.